What would you say to a Muslim feminist? Look into the camera and say,
I don't care what they say. Who cares what they say?
Mashallah.
You know, who cares what they say? Jordan Peterson, he has a jumbled epistemology. Yeah, and I've said this to him. It's not, you know.
It's not backbiting. Okay, feminism.
It's like Yahudiya. Yani, it's like Judaism. I'm more of a Jew than I am a feminist. And I think you are as well.
Name something a man might do at the gym to impress a woman.
Do you know what you would do to impress a woman?
What?
Not show up.
Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak everyone. I'm really excited about today's podcast, but a quick message before we start. If you're anything like me, you probably leave giving sadaqah every day in Ramadan right to the last minute, right? And then all of a sudden you can't find a link on your phone to donate or whatever. Sound familiar? Well, we just put our Ramadan appeal fundraising thingy right up on the top of our screen on Islam 20 on every page, so you can quickly tap and give sadaqah. But as it's a new feature, you can just do me a favor right now and check it's working properly. Just all you need to do is make a donation of £100 and send up a monthly donation. Let me know in the comments below when the money leaves your account. No refunds though, yeah? But seriously, we've all got a massive chance to multiply the reward for each donation that we make to Islam 20, up to 700 times. So please be generous, and remember, this is a unique reward. Every donation is not only an ongoing sadaqah jari for you, but inshallah it spreads into so many different projects that you'll get a share in, inshallah. The demos for the press, national campaigns, film productions, articles, national khutbah days, shows like this, and so much more. I'm fed up of hearing that more and more Muslims are losing their confidence to live by Islam because they think it's not relevant anymore. This is why Islam 21C, which stands for Islam in the 21st century, was set up to counter this soul-destroying issue, which can ultimately lead Muslims into the hellfire. SubhanAllah. It's that serious. Look, I'm going to make a donation right now to start us off. The link's in the description below and on Islam22.com. Bismillah. Join me and enjoy the show.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to today's Unscripted Podcast. We have with us Mohammed Hijab. Assalamu alaikum. Mohammed Hijab is, of course, a YouTuber and co-founder of Sapiens Institute. How's it going, brother?
Alhamdulillah, how are you doing?
MashaAllah, good to see you with your shirt on. Alhamdulillah. Like we've been doing for a lot of the guests in this series, all of the guests, I think, we start off with a few rapid fire questions, something our old co-host kind of invented. So, rapid fire question, the idea is I'm going to ask you just a few quick questions, help people get to know you and stuff. But you have to answer quickly with the first thing on your mind. All right? Are you ready? That was the first question. Favorite food?
Curry.
Curry, very nice. Biryani or naan?
No, I don't like... biryani is not my favorite curry.
Biryani or naan? This is a separate question.
What's naan? Is it the bread?
Yeah, naan bread.
No, I don't like naan.
Biryani?
Biryani is alright. That's not...
Out of the two, which would you choose?
Biryani.
Cake or gulab jamun?
What's that?
Next question. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi Max.
Pepsi Max.
Yeah.
I need a sound
Pepsi
effect
Max.
for that. That is the best. That is the king of the drinks, mashallah. Even though it probably has some chemicals that will put holes in our
No,
brains.
but if I had to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Since all these are food related, added some others. Football or cricket?
Football.
Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat?
I can't remember Street Fighter.
What?
I can't remember. Mortal Kombat.
Astaghfirullah. I don't know what to say. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
30.
30? You say you remember Street Fighter is 30.
Which one is again? Who are the characters? I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember.
Ryu and Ken. Sagat.
Oh yeah.
Dalsy.
I can't remember that too much.
All right.
No.
Anyway, so that's just to get the blood flowing. Inshallah, we've got a few other gimmicks coming in the middle of the podcast when you least expect it. But one of the things I wanted to kick off with, I just spoken to some brothers, say, what would be good to, speak to about brothers involved in da'wah in the online space is very important. This is the new kind of, like the printing press. I say how the printing press revolutionized communications and even Islamic discourse. Likewise, like it or not, internet, digital age, social media, it's affected lots of things. So what would you say, just to kind of open the question here, how's, maybe you feel free to say I don't know, whatever, how has the internet changed Islamic discourse, do you think? You may not forget, you may not remember pre-internet Islamic discourse, but how do you in your experience, how's internet itself, the internet, how do you think it's changed Islamic discourse and how Islam is spoken about?
It's a very difficult question because we kind of have to look at do you know when the internet started?
It popularly like 90s, but obviously before that it was kind of a...
so in the 90s. Would you know when in the 90s?
Well, I got my first computer in like 1997.
Right.
So,
and
I wasn't like cutting edge guy.
No, I remember when the internet used to be like very slow and stuff when I was very young. But I'm just wondering when so I think after 2000, like that's when the internet became a different animal altogether. Because then you started getting like broadband internet, and then you had the introduction of YouTube. I'm not sure when that was.
2005, I think.
Yeah. So I think in the last 20 years, there has been a difference. The internet itself, Google has some very interesting tools that you can actually help quantify the answer to that question. So they have Google Trends. They have something called Ngram. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Yeah, it charts you can look for words, right?
So Ngram, I don't know exactly how they do this. They look at the books and whatever it is, I think Google books, things that have been scanned into their system. And then you put keywords and see how much that word has been used in whatever space of time. So I think there's a way to quantify the answer to that question using these tools like Google Trends, Google Ngram, YouTube itself, seeing the extent to which Islam has been spoken of on YouTube. And this is actually a field now in academia called data science. And I've actually spoken to many data scientists myself from the University of Edinburgh and other universities. And they actually track the extent to which, and there is a way to do this, the extent to which particular discourses have had shifts in things like Twitter in particular. It's more difficult to do it. It's more difficult to do it on YouTube by virtue of the fact that the methods are more difficult from a data science perspective. But there are some things which, from my surface level conversations with data scientists, that I've been able to kind of extrapolate. One of them is people usually go on the internet to find people who agree with them.
Yeah.
So, particularly if you look at some of the major conflicts that have taken place, like Israel-Palestine conflict, for example, right? You'll find that actually the internet can be a force for polarization. Now, it can be a force for convincing people, but usually those people are undecided. But if you've come in with a preconceived understanding of certain issues,
idea of echo chambers,
it intensifies that in that sense. So that's what I think. That's if you want a generalized conclusion, there is that. But obviously the Muslims are a lot in number, and so when we produce our own, if you like, echo chambers or communities or spaces, I think it does actually create a loud noise, which has the net effect of actually giving us an ability to speak in ways that we would never have been able to do on mainstream media. And
there's always been, historically there's been different kind of ways, paths that you go down, schools of thought, whatever. You hang around with people, that are kind of similar to yourself. But I think one thing the internet has done, especially spaces that are algorithmically controlled to give you, to just set up to just make you glued to that platform more and more. If you think about just the last thing you Googled, now if you want to know something, you just Google it, right? Or search for in Google or YouTube, whatever. Max Stossel is a researcher. He done a really interesting little experiment with his friends. Yeah, he asked two people the same question, and I thought when he was saying this, describing this experiment, I was thinking how this could be applied to Muslims as well to just highlight this thing. He asked
What's the name of the person?
Max Stossel. Yeah, he asked 2 questions, and 1 question to 2 people. Something about how many crimes do immigrants commit in Europe? Yeah, so a kind of loaded kind of question. One person, one of his friends, he got answers really kind of overblowing the statistical significance of, highlighting, immigrants are a threat, etc. Daily Mail, kind of Fox News kind of stuff. Another friend, a bit more kind of balanced, statistically significant kind of treatment. Actually, it's a very small minority that commit crimes. So this is 2 same input going into Google, which knows it's not unbiasedly kind of impartially presenting you a reflection of the truth. It's presenting you that thing which you're more likely to click on and more likely to stay and be a return visitor to that platform, because it's selling ads at the end of the day. Yeah, and I was just thinking, these 2 people, they're creating a different universe for themselves. They're projecting a different world from the inside about this matter, radically different answers. And imagine what's doing to Islamic topics. When people search for Islamic stuff, I might search for something and I find, things from my own people, from scholars or websites that I've looked at before, whatever language, English, Urdu, Arabic, whatever. It seems to know that these things will kind of dangle some bait in front of me, maybe for the first few times, and I'm clicking this type of person. So it kind of, Google knows more about you than you know about yourself. But that's having an impact, right? That's having an impact on how we perceive Islam and how we talk about Islam. Yeah, and especially as a creator of content, even even Islam 2.0, we're always thinking about this, that there's always that threat that these algorithms, they're gonna change our voice. Because I know I could put an article or a video out with this title on this kind of subject, with this thumbnail, and it will get this many views, and another one will get this many views. So I'm incentivized now to, do you know what I mean? Do you feel that sometimes?
I think there's a bigger threat. The bigger threat being that we get a removal of our voices altogether. And don't forget that, recently with this whole Russia-Ukraine situation, I was trying to see the Russian voices online.
You won't find them.
Exactly. So, for example, RT, Russia Today, their whole YouTube channel has been taken down.
I think that is in the UK. UK is okay, I think.
I tried looking at it this morning. It wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, and I don't know who this guy is, Ibrahimovic, I forget his name, but his assets.
Abramovich, yeah.
Yeah, his assets have been frozen. I mean, this is, now we have to think, if we're strategically planning for the future, the question is not what kind of content are we being shown discriminatively over other types of content. That's not the bigger threat here. The bigger threat is, if our content will remain online anyway, what kind of world events are going to be there such that the powers that be, may decide in a flash to take everything away. And I think the Dawah organizations like ours, Sapiens 21C, Islam 21C, whatever it may be, they'd be foolish and underprepared if we do not have a decentralized, independent platform away from the dependence on the Western powers that be.
I mean, that's the idea that what we're trying to push as well on, because our social media, we know that if we post something on Palestine, for example, the reach will get severely reduced, right? We've seen this again and again.
Yeah, but I think this is what I'm describing here is more severe than what you're saying, which I'm saying that it can.
You're at their mercy, basically. They could turn you off.
I mean, if we're talking about YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Netflix, all of those things, quite frankly, they own them. Yeah. They are letting us do what we want on them for now, as a measure of, it's a calculus, a risk-benefit calculus.
Yeah,
they have taken a risk-benefit decision to keep us on their platforms, because it's better for them to know about how Muslims are thinking through the engagements of our platforms and the likes and dislikes and all that kind of thing than it is not to. So they're collecting intelligence through our followers. That is basically...
Who's they?
The intelligence services. No, the intelligence services, the governments, the advertisers, and all the powers that may be. So in a sense, this is the trade-off that's being made. We're giving them intelligence and they are giving us a voice. But the moment where that trade-off is no longer in their favor and favorable to them, is the moment they can, just like Russia today. I mean, Russia is a huge country. It's a government, for God's sake. I mean, one of the strongest in the world. Top 3 strongest governments in the world. And for their biggest mouthpiece, which in this case is Russia today, was taken away in a flash of a second. I mean, as I say, if we don't decentralize
that's kind of what the Internet 3 is all meant to be about, right? So Internet 2 is dominated, basically owned by a few companies. Google, Facebook, which is Meta now, and Amazon. Netflix and all that is AWS, Amazon Web Services, Netflix. So these few companies now have dominated the internet, are shaping what people are learning and what people are kind of finding. But I think that's what Internet 3 is going to be about decentralization.
What do they call it, Internet 3?
Yeah, so the third stage, major stage in the internet. I think Internet 1 was ISPs were owning your access. Now it's, these few different companies. Internet 3 is meant to be about decentralizing with peer-to-peer networks, people connecting to each other, circumventing internet service providers and circumventing the big kind of companies that are, like anything, it's probably going to get co-opted by, powerful forces and stuff. But it's very important. We have to be ahead of the curve, on that. But in terms of the status quo, how you find things now, right? What do you think are, when it comes to social media, what do you think are some of the, the diseases of people who are active on social media that, you found that you try to avoid and kind of warn against?
Can you be more specific with the question?
What are they? Just open-ended for a reason.
What do you mean?
I see what you regard as, a negative
things,
of social
negative
media.
Things on the internet.
Negative things about or diseases that people active on social media need to be wary of.
Well, I mean, active as content producers or consumers?
Either. Producers. Let's say producers.
Right. So I think with it is that you have to appreciate that it can be a very toxic environment. I mean, recently there was a woman who's, I think, Miss World or something like that, and she killed herself. I saw an article on the matter, and she killed herself because of cyberbullying and all this kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is, people come into the internet, start producing content, get somewhat of a dopamine rush from it, and then afterwards, when they start getting dispraised and attacked, they can't really handle it after that. And so that causes mental deterioration. And as a result of that, they can suffer mentally from it. So I think coming into the online space, especially if you're doing da'wah, at the end of the day, a lot of it is the people that come into da'wah have the same experiences.
Which is what?
Even students of knowledge. They'll come in, and the moment that things don't go their way, people start attacking them, they start getting dispraised, they'll start suffering mentally from it. Then they can get physical deterioration. They can get mental and physical deterioration from it. So,
have you experienced that yourself?
To be honest, no. Not to that level. I have experienced...
I mean not the extreme thing, but the...
no, I'll tell you what I have experienced from my own personal life on the internet. I will not be speaking the truth to you if I say I don't care what people say. If I don't care what people say, I think that's actually a marker of psychopathy. No, honestly.
Statistically, 4% of people probably...
Yeah, if I'm a psychopath, I don't care what people say or think or whatever. And if you've seen an interview with a psychopath or a sociopath, and there are some slight variations in definition of those two things, right? If you've seen how these kind of people interact, their level of stoic interaction, I believe them when they say, I don't care what this person says. No, honestly. But if I were to sit to you and say, look, I don't care what you think. Yeah. And the Quran states about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you fear what the people will say, and Allah is more befitting that, and this came that you fear him because of what? That you fear him, full stop, right? This came when there were certain accusations that were taking place, baseless accusations in his community about him marrying a particular woman at a particular time, whatever. But the point is, it's not. I don't think it's correct to think that if you come into the online space, you're not going to care what people think. If you have that vision of yourself, then you have not done a proper self-assessment. you need to, if you're coming into da'wah, then you need to have a proper self-assessment. You do care what people say. You will care what people say. And you will care who those who are closest to you in religion, methodology, maybe social class say as well. For me personally, that has been my experience. So people who are Muslims, I have a more acute awareness of what they're saying than people who, for example, are from other communities. If they're from anti-Muslim communities, it's almost the opposite. If they say good things about me, no, I'm being serious. If they say good things
something
about
wrong.
me, then I do feel like there's something wrong here. I've done something wrong. So I actually find that...
Has that ever happened though? Would an anti-Muslim person
it happens exceptionally, right? It happens here from time to time. But the point is that I do care what Muslims say. And if you're coming into, for example, into the space of da'wah, right, where we are, then you will care. So clearly you need to be grounded elsewhere. You need to kind of know why you did it in the first place. And you need to understand that this has happened with all the prophets and the Sahaba, that you come into da'wah, you'll experience a lot of pain through this, But some people experience a more acute deterioration because that is all that they have based their lives on now. And so it's important before you get into, if this is more of an advisory session, if you like, then I will say it's important to diversify your life portfolio. Don't make social media and content production and pleasing what people... Don't make that the be-all and end-all, because the moment you do that, then you're in trouble when things don't go your way. And you may do everything right, and I haven't done everything right, but you may do everything right. I mean, think about it. The Prophet ﷺ done everything right. Yet he was resisted. Yet he was attacked. Yet he was rejected. The prophets before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And this is why Sheikh Haytham, actually, he gave me very good advice on this matter. We went to Norway one time, and he said that I don't ever help anybody unless they work in a group. Because, the wolf preys on the lone sheep. And so it's the same thing. And the Quran kind of gives us this kind of meaning when it says, وَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِث. You're a third person that came to give da'wah, Surah Yasin, and to help and so on. So to be in a group, to diversify your life portfolio and to know why you did it in the first place, that will reduce the level of pain that you may experience through dispraise or attack, especially from members in your own community. But it will not eliminate it. And so you do have to embrace the pain there.
I'm not really an expert by any means of in any stretch of the imagination of, the online dawah space and stuff and what. I mean, lots of accounts doing excellent work, dawah to Muslims, non-Muslims, all that kind of stuff. But one thing I have, maybe a worrying trend that I've seen, and not just on online stuff, I've noticed kind of echoes of this in real life kind of engagements with people as well. And that is they almost make their criticism of some people paradigmatic in that because they're criticizing me, I must be on the haqq. Do you understand this sentiment? And it feeds into a broader problem of almost a kind of messiah complex where people feel that, I must speak about X, Y, Z, otherwise, Islam will be lost, or the haqq will be lost. And it leads to, and it's a good intention for people to obviously want to speak the truth and defend Islam and defend the Muslims and etc. etc. But I don't know if it leads to more problems than, solutions. Have you come across this? Even myself, sometimes I have to stop myself saying something. And alhamdulillah, Allah's blessed me with the ability and the just historically the qadr of Allah that I didn't say certain things when people asked or the time opportunity came, I stopped for whatever reason, and then later on I thought alhamdulillah I didn't say anything, because naturally your social media kind of breeds the impulse to say something out of haste, and it's kind of against deliberation. If you deliberate, if you wait a few days, wait for the dust to settle, you won't get that many hits or whatever. But
I think there's two things to say about that. There's no one size fits all here. It really does depend on the context.
Of course, if you are a Messiah, then
no,
that doesn't apply to you if anyone's watching.
No, what I mean is that some things have to be said at the time. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi, wa man lam yastati' fa bilisanihi, wa man lam yastati' fa biqalbihi wa dhalika adhafu al-iman." You know, the famous hadith: whoever sees evil from you, then he has to change it with his hand, and if he can't, then with his tongue, and then if he can't, then with his heart, and that's the weakest of iman. But the point is that there is a fine. Do you know, in virtue ethics, the Aristotelian type virtue ethics, virtue is defined as the Goldilocks zone between two vices, between vice and virtue. So you have bravery, and then you have like haste. When is it bravery and when is it haste? For example, if walking in the street,
bravery was like between cowardice and recklessness.
Yeah, right.
So haste would be deliberation is between.
No, but here's the point, right? Acting immediately or spontaneously is not always a bad thing. If I'm walking in the street right now and I see a woman getting sexually molested, let's say a Muslim woman, right? And then
it shouldn't matter.
No.
If it's a Muslim woman, right?
I said let's say a Muslim woman, right? It could be a Muslim woman, it could be something else. But let's just say a Muslim woman, because we're in East London here. There's lots of Muslim women. Let's say a man, whatever you like. You know, no problem. We're walking in the street and we see a person being sexually molested or something like that. What is the right thing to do? Is it to deliberate, to call the police, to maybe, for some people it might be the right thing to do. For other people it's to get involved straight away and to deal with the matter. Like if you're walking with
your hand.
If you're with your wife and you're walking in the street and someone says something to her or slaps her in the face, and you say, well, let me take the deliberative approach. No, honestly, it's serious. That's why when Ibn Abbas, when he came to Umar ibn Khattab, and this is mentioned, Tarikh Dimishq, he said, how do you become a leader? And then Umar ibn Khattab, he said, لا يحمل هذا الأمر إلا اللين في غير ضعف والقوي في غير عنف والجواد في غير إسراف والممسك في غير بخل. He said, you will not be, and this is virtue ethics. He said, you will not be able to handle this affair, or one will not be able to handle this affair except for the lenient and other than weakness, and the strong and other than aggression, and the generous and other than extravagance, and the conservative and other than miserliness. The point is, sometimes there is a point where you have to immediately act.
But that's based on a pre-deliberative kind of ethic that you have.
No. This is the ethic.
Let's say it's a response, not a reaction.
What I'm saying is, sometimes the iron is hot for the striking. And it will only be hot for the striking at a certain time, and there's a window of opportunity. Some people, I'll be introspective here and say, like myself, are probably more on the side of spontaneity. And let me say, some people, like others, maybe more on the side of deliberation. What I have to watch out for is things like recklessness and hastiness. What other people with more of a placid or docile temperament must watch out for is cowardice. And I have to say something.
And just being lazy and delaying.
Lazy, but cowardice in particular. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith in the Musnad of Abi Dawood, he says that two characteristics that are the worst, asharru ma fi ar-rajul, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the worst thing that could be in a man. And he said the two worst things that could be a man, one of them is basically serious miserliness, which is being bakhil, basically, shahih or bakhil or whatever, and the other one is cowardice. So actually, I will have to say here, the issue of being deliberate and so on, or deliberative, sometimes being impulsive is better than being a coward. So I'm not saying that, that it's one or the other. There is a virtue in between.
Yeah.
However, someone like myself needs to hang around with people who are more deliberative and more calm and more cost-benefit ratio and more shura-based and all that stuff. But people who are more cowardly, and they know that about themselves,
they need to hang around with you.
They need to hang around with people who are more basically not like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that, as you know...
Do you see the point what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So just to answer your question in a nutshell, the point of when to make a change, when to say something, when to do something, there is not one size fits all policy. Sometimes if
what thought process do you go to make a determination? Because it's inzadul hukm al waqi'a muayyana in that sense, right? You're putting that theory into a into a real life scenario that, okay, now in this situation I'm going to do this, in this situation I'm going to do that. What goes through your mind? Do you feel sometimes that, okay, I need to speak to XYZ person before
what goes through my mind, it depends on the context.
Yeah.
If I am in a situation with my family...
No, I'm not talking about like real life.
No, but this is important.
You know,
right? So, for example, I'm giving you the answer, right?
Yeah.
If I am with my family and there's a 5% chance that their family or that their life could be in danger, that their health can be in danger, and someone is posing a threat, then I will always go more than what should be done.
Of course.
Like I'll go overboard.
Yeah. That's understandable. Yeah.
That's me personally. So if I feel like there's a threat, I'll go overboard.
I think anyone would. Even the most deliberative.
No, that's not true. That's
really?
No, it's not true. Let's correct this notion. Yeah. This is false. There are some men out there. Okay, there's some people out there that have no experience activating their sympathetic nervous system, and so there's an autonomic nervous system. It's divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is when it's activated at times of crisis and calamity. And so when that, like you said, fight or flight, adrenaline is pumped, the pupils dilate, the digestive tract is completely switched off. Yeah. By the way, this is what happens. So if you're in that situation and for the first time in your life, your sympathetic nervous system is active, but now your wife's life is in danger, or your child's life is in danger, you could end up being or doing something that you will never ever respect yourself after that for.
You could end up
running away, leaving your wife to be beaten. I've seen videos recently online, and there was a man with his daughter, and a killer dog came running after them, and he jumped on top of the car and left his daughter. Honestly, I find that kind of thing very bad.
But I mean, you're a student of philosophy, right? You know that.
No, but do you see the point?
I'm not going to let you get away with giving a real life danger example to highlight a point about social media.
Dangers are everywhere. No, even social media dangers.
Is it going to be a comparable danger, something happens
even worse sometimes,
and doing a YouTube video or a social media post, or is that?
Yeah, it is, because especially of people of religious authority or voice even. If you look at the reason why people have had enough of certain scholars in the world, it's because they cannot speak in issues of crisis. The Quran says, وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أمر من الأمن والخوف أذاعوا به ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منهم لعلمه الذين يستنبطونه منهم. أمر من الأمن أو الخوف. This is a situation of peace or fear. Fear. Then if they had taken it back to the Prophet ﷺ and the people who can do istinbat from them, which are the ulama basically. We're not saying we're them, but I'm giving you the reason that people have had enough of certain scholars. Because
isn't the problem with the people then?
Certain scholars in the world today do not comment on times of crisis for whatever reason. Now they may have legitimate excuses, and by the way, I give them the benefit of the doubt for whatever political reason. However, this makes people, and this is according to the Arab Barometer. In fact, they've done a poll on the Arab population. What's the reasons why the people are becoming less religious? Number one, in عدم الثقة في السادة الدينية. Number one reason.
عدم.
Yeah, in عدم الثقة, they have less now. ثقة. They have less confidence in the religious authorities. Make them less religious overall. So the lack of speaking sometimes immediately with conviction.
But does that apply to us?
Yeah, it does. Of course, it does. In this land, it does. Not the scholarly jihadi type things. But issues to do with crisis, if religious people are not there, then we're basically handing the mantle over to the fasaqah to take over the mantle. That's all it is. If we don't speak, the fasaqa,
I'm not
the
talking
evil
about
doers will
religious people as a ontological group.
Yeah.
I'm talking about us, me and you. That feeling that, do I need to say something right now?
Sometimes you do. Of course you do. Like, for
How
example,
do you make the determination?
Well, look
you might be right. I'm not saying
like the Uyghur situation. I mean, we went to the protest. You guys, mashallah, done a great job in organizing it. But you clearly made the determination that it's time to speak, and you are one of the only groups that I know that really made an effort to do.
There's mashallah, 50 odd organizations.
No, of course, but one of 50 is nothing compared to the amount of millions of organizations that exist in the West. So one of the only 50 is nothing. Yeah. So if you had,
this is one way.
If you had decided not to, what would that have looked like?
I mean, it's bad, but so that's one way we could say in terms of anyone thinking to put some qawaid or principles and
The thing is, this thing does not have qawaid.
If it's with a collection, if it's with a jama'ah.
Yes, that's what we started off with.
That's important.
That's important.
Yeah.
If you have a shura, if you have people that you're consulting with, lone wolves, as we said at the very beginning, we shouldn't have that anyway. You have a jama'ah, you have people, they make decisions, then they get it right sometimes. Yeah. And they'll get it right. If they don't get it right, then khalas,
There's mercy in
there's different opinion whether it's mercy in ikhtilaf or not, whatever.
But just in jama'atu rahma.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the jama'ah, yeah. The jama'ah, yeah. I thought you said the ikhtilaf.
No, just being together, being in, knocking heads.
I'm with you, but this point is important because we don't want. There's two extremes. There's one extreme, which I'm probably
virtue ethics again.
Yeah, no, there is. And I'm more on the side of it myself. I'm aware of that. I'm self-aware of that scenario.
You're not a psychopath.
Yeah. No, is that you act. You act just like that. And that can get you in trouble. It can. And the other extreme is you don't act. That's an extreme. And that's a worse. I'm saying that's worse.
Isn't there more... some devil's advocate here, yeah?
And the reason why I'm saying this worse is because it errs on the side of cowardice, which the Prophet ﷺ said is one of the worst things that man can have.
When it comes to a more direct nas,
man
kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir
falyaqul khayran falyasmut.
Yeah. So whoever believes in the last day, let him speak good or be silent. Yeah. So erring on the side of caution, you could say when it comes to speech.
When he done a sharh of that, he said...
Oh, I wasn't prepared that one.
No, because
what that was going to be a Hadouken point.
If you think what you're saying is better than if you think what you would say is better than silence, then you say it.
Of course, that's what the us is saying.
No, but what I'm saying, of course, we're not going to tell people to say bad things, But then, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعَادِلُوا وَإِنْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. If you're going to speak, then you're going to speak justly, even if it's someone that's close to you. The point is, there is a middle ground.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it requires people from all different kind of the youthly dynamism and the elderly wisdom, and that needs to be coupled together.
I remember I was thinking once, because I always love it when I see brothers and sisters. I don't see sisters that much, but brothers involved in da'wah and using the new technologies that are available. I know some brothers are like Yusha Evans, for example. He's doing stuff on gamers with gaming, and
Good.
Through that that needs to be dynamic. People doing speakers corner or all kinds of stuff on YouTube. But one of the things I saw, the differences between those brothers in my very short lifespan. I'm only 6 years older than you, so we're pretty much the same age. In my short lifespan, I've seen people. What's the difference between those people who went down a path of being the lone wolf, having a Messiah complex, causing so much, splitting the ranks of the Muslims and causing confusion, and those who maybe started off like them, but they became respectable, members of the community and the Jama'ah, and became effective individuals. People like Hamza Chorchis, people like Adnan Rashid, they became people who are, mashallah, obviously when they started out when they were young, but they became people who are, mashallah, respected, and they've always been worthy of respect to their degree and so forth. But I always wonder, what's the difference? Number one is this qadr of Allah and tawfiq, right? Maybe a secret inside them. But one thing I saw, that they were very quick to be with the Jama'ah. They were very quick to yield their personal opinion to people with more experience. They were even though I'm the same age or younger probably, anything, any minor piece of advice, criticism, whatever, they'd be very
that's an important point. The shura, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُم, as the Quran states,
of course,
that there's affair of shura between them. And so there has to be a level of shura, giving and taking, and this is something that almost all the organizations have. Like in Sapiens, we have a very robust shura council.
MashaAllah. Very democratic, yeah.
Yeah, even recently when I did the Ayan McGann discussion, when I did that discussion,
what was that word again? Ayan McGann.
That
was a masterclass of synonyms for this person is basically a peep. What was it?
The obsequious. Yeah,
I had like 10 minutes of that. It was really like a
but do you know,
my things list of.
For example, right? It went well. It went very well, in my opinion, right? But the only backlash that I got from some, I would say, minor elements, I would say even below 3% in this case, of the Muslim population or community itself, was that you went too far into her personal life. Most people said, actually, no, she deserves it, and people need to be warned against it. However, this was a trade-off, and there was a five-man, if you like, five-man shura council.
Yeah. That's what you need.
We have before I spoke to Ayan about her in that opposing views segment with Jordan Peterson. We went through what I was going to do. We went through how I was going to answer. We even went through whether or not we were going to go personal with her. And there was a majority vote, basically, if you like, that we were going to do that, and we knew that we were going to get backlash for it. So, for example, people don't realize that even in aspects where people think I'm acting alone, I'm not acting alone.
Absolutely, yeah, it's good.
David Wood debate, I had a shura council for that as well. The barakah is
unless you surround it with yes men.
Yeah, no, there's no yes men that we're surrounded with, because people that the shura that I'm part of.
You need someone who can give you a few of them.
Yeah,
you understand Hadouken there.
Yeah, no. The people that we're surrounded with are not yes men by any means.
And that's what there's a good balance here between not caring what people think or not listening to what the general comment or troll. You don't know if someone's a troll or someone's got a PhD in that subject he's advising you about. So it's to have a healthy cynicism when it comes to comments, but still have that core group whose opinion you really care about. And just before we move on to the next kind of segment, we've got the Voice of the People segment here. Let's have a look.
Regarding I21C, what kind of things and areas do you think they should cover, and what would you like to see them do in the future?
What comes to mind is one thing. I mean, there's lots. I'm an avid reader of the website, and I know that it's holistic in its nature, and it covers every kind of topic, right? And the subjects, are weaved, interwoven in a very organic way. But what comes to mind is helping the young generation to dream big. Yeah, helping them to dream big and aspire and achieve great things. Right, to leave a legacy, right? So anything that encourages that, we are ummah that leads.
MashaAllah, Sheikh Farid Haibatan, one of the mashayikh in the UK. We need to teach or get our young brothers and sisters to dream big, think big. We are an ummah that leads, not follows. What do you reckon about that? How can we make our dawah, generally as a community, more empowering for younger people and the Muslims?
I mean, this is a very general question once again. I think...
Try and put the mic close to you.
Yeah. What are the objectives? To try and bring people outside of the fold of Islam into Islam, or people within the fold of Islam but who are not practicing into...
Even people who are practicing, imagine they are so-called practicing it. Okay. Do they think big?
What does it mean to think big?
What do you think? I don't know.
No, because we need to define it.
To me, thinking big is you're not distracted by more petty squabbles. Yeah, the differences between, this group and that group, school of thought.
Okay, but you're describing thinking big in the negative.
Example. Yeah, we're looking at bigger issues,
like
global issues. Yeah,
okay.
Like rebuilding an Islamic civilization. like making Muslims feel that they're here to lead humanity. Yeah, not feeling maybe victimized or kind of beleaguered and battered, and thinking just of, you know, your own issues as personally, your mosque politics or the issues that you have with your brothers. Thinking, look, what are the big global things that are, you know, affecting the Muslims? Not to give, like, for anyone to just start giving geopolitical analyses, because that's an issue. Just feeling, you know, that this is a big.
Are you talking here about Islam 21C in particular?
No, generally.
But I think that the da'wah is a huge thing. You know, when you look at the Quran, right, and you look at, for example, Surah Hud, which is a very interesting and comprehensive surah about like different prophets that came to their different peoples, and they were warning of different kinds of things. And it was the key of everything was مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ. That was the key. That what Lord do you have except for Him? So a da'wah organization has to have that as the crux, has to have tawheed as the crux, has to imbue a deep sense of purpose and meaning. Like, okay, we're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After that has been nurtured into the public, to the Muslim public, now we have to do an assessment of what are a SWOT, you know, analysis, as they call it, right? Strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. What are the things which affect the Muslim people the most? What are the things that can be the biggest obstacles to the tawheed state, to the ibadah, to the purpose of life? And we find that, you know, to put it crudely or simplistically, it's either going to be a shubuhat or shahawat. You know, either it's doubts about the religion or desires of the world, or these things that the dunya has to offer. So any successful da'wah organization has to empower young people and Muslim people generally to think beyond short-term horizon thinking. In the case of shubuhat, shahawat, and or desires, and think deeply and critically and understand the religion, ta'aleem, tafqih, and so on, and teaching and really understanding the religion of Islam in the case of shubuhat. And so there has to be these two components, I think.
That's you're wearing your Sapiens hat now, mashallah.
Yeah, this is da'wah, right? I mean, if we're talking about, in a sense, you know, humanitarian things that happen across the world, this is Muslims aiding another Muslim. Is it strictly da'wah? No, it's not strictly da'wah. It's now we're talking about something else, which is equally important, sometimes can be more important, you know?
I like how you're bringing things to da'wah. That's good to have a focus in, you know, your life and your work and your organizations. So it's really important for different people to have different focuses. You know, da'wah, you know, in its simplest and the most urgent sense is what trying to, you know, for example, bringing people from outside of the fold of Islam, from non-Islam to Islam.
Yes.
And you don't need much for that. You know, the message is powerful itself. You need, you know, maybe some emotional intelligence to communicate with people and so forth. You know, but the message itself is clear, and it doesn't require that much knowledge. The one of the problems though is with, I'm not saying you do this, but I've seen a lot of people, maybe you do this, I don't know. That is, people who cut their teeth in da'wah, especially non-Muslims, you know, it's very, very important, extremely crucial. You know, they have one type of address, one type of khitab, the khitab of da'wah, of, for example, non-Muslims or debates, or, you know, talking about very fundamental issues from kufr to Islam. Yeah, or maybe back again as well. But that type of khitab, or person who has that type of speciality, it's best that they remain in that type of speciality, because it makes your, unfortunately, and I mean, this is the human being, yeah? If I'm focusing on that, yeah, my mind is going to be like, if you're a hammer, everything you see is nails. If I'm focusing on the core kufr to Islam kind of polarity, I'm naturally going to have a, maybe in a good sense, a black and white mentality for those things. But the ummah needs more things than just that. Like you said, one is the humanitarian aid, so forth. One is the political dimension. One is Islamic scholarship, and fatwa, and ijtihad, and all these types of things.
Well, I once again, I agree and disagree. I mean, I agree in the sense that I do believe in specialism. I do believe that we should have specialists. I mean, economists have figured this out in the law of comparative advantage. Specialism clearly, begets efficiency. And so people being specialized in fields is definitely something good. However, the idea that if one person does something and then they branch out to something else, especially if that something else is not necessarily a knowledge, if you like. It's not ilm. Like, for example, the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he stated, "Man tatabbaba wa lam yakun bit-tibbi ma'rufan fa asaba nafsan fa huwa dhamin."
We see that a lot in the pandemic era.
Yeah. So whoever pretends to be or takes the mantle of being a doctor and he's not actually known for being a doctor, and then he injures a self or a soul, then he's responsible for it. If someone who's I don't know, like a mechanic, starts to speak about things which relate to medicine, and they have no khalfiyya background in it, that's why I would say there's a clear egregious moving away from one's lane. But if someone who does da'wah...
That's a good way of staying in your lane.
Yeah, staying in your lane. But if someone's doing da'wah and they decide to do humanitarian aid or charity, I don't see the two things as the same.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. But someone's cut their teeth in da'wah, that's their specialism, They know all the philosophies and the batil and all that kind of stuff. But then going into ijtihadi matters among Muslims,
yes,
this whole thing of refutation culture, I feel, is coming back again.
Yes.
Yeah. We had this graphic once that one of the brothers made, of a PDF, an old embattled PDF, kind of being kicked out by, the young, youthful YouTube and Facebook icons. Because that's how it feels sometimes, that before it used to be in PDF.
No, I agree with you.
Or open office documents for some people.
But the thing is, I feel like there are two approaches here. One approach is to leave all kinds of refutation and, they bring up these kinds of...
leave it to its people, you mean?
No, just leave it in general. Because there is no its people.
Hey, enjoying the show? We'll get back to it in just a moment, but I just wanted to let you know that our Ramadan appeal is live right now. I'm inviting you to share in the multiple rewards of Islam 21C. We do so much more than podcasts, so each donation you make could go towards up to 15 different projects, and many of them will be sadaqah jariyah for you, inshallah. National khutbah days, national impact campaigns, news responses, featured articles, short films, Islamic videos, infographic series, the list goes on. You can't go wrong, eh? Donate using the link below. Okay, now back to the show.
Yesterday we had, not yesterday, the other day we had Sheikh Suhail Hanif, who's talking about how we need to build these ivory towers, so to speak, place where scholarship can happen and refutation can occur.
Scholars are not going to respond to YouTubers, put it that way.
To each other.
You see, and if a scholar has a limited influence and a YouTuber has more reach, then a YouTuber is going to end up responding to another one, because that's how narratives are broken. But the point is, once again, I speak from a position of bias, because there have been two approaches in the last 20 to 30 years, and I represent one of them.
What are they?
If you like. Two approaches which have been that, to put it crudely, some tabdi'is and takfiris, individuals who indulged quite rapidly and frequently in the kind of hereticizing, I'm not sure if that's a word, of other people, calling them innovators, mubtada' and so on.
Like public condemnation of...
that kind of thing. They have been allowed to grow. And one response to them has been to just leave them and be quiet and don't say anything. And another response has been to just respond to them. And that's basically been my approach. Now, from my experience, I'm not going to say that my approach is the right one. Once again, a lot of this is to do with cost-benefit ratio, calculus. And that the other approach is wrong.
At the end of the day, it's an ijtihad.
It's not an ijtihad in the fatwa type thing, but it's
ijtihad in the fatwa type thing.
No, I don't.
It's not ijtihad al-ta'sili.
No, it's not. Yeah,
it's
not
ijtihad al-tatbiqi.
Yeah, in a sense, everyone does their own ijtihad, right?
Yeah.
In life, the Ami does that as well. In that sense, the layman. But what I mean is, in a sense that I represent another, if you like, side of the spectrum.
I'm of the opinion that I'll ignore it and maybe it'll go away.
Yeah, I think that's another side of the spectrum. I think the probably is in the upcoming generations, and people that come up and speak about this to me and say, "What do you think?" If I'm being honest, I think that our approach has been too excessive. Like looking back in introspection, in the last 5 years of me doing this kind of thing, like responding to people like Takfiris or Tabdi'is or something, who I believe do pose a considerable threat to the dawah. I do believe that.
Yeah.
But my approach.
I mean, you can refute someone's idea, right?
Yeah, but it's not as potent. Yeah. No, look. I mean, the thing is, that's all well and good, but if someone hits you, hit them back. I mean, that's the view that we've been taking. But there's, if there's someone hits you, hit them back, and it helps. Sometimes being rough with them helps as well, all that stuff. But what I mean is,
as long as there is scholarly oversight, because this is a matter of ijtihad. This is a matter of turning over an asl, which is hurma of the honor and the dignity of a Muslim.
Yeah,
Riba, major sin potentially.
Of course. Yeah. But what I was going to say was, sorry,
overturning that. Overturning the default ruling of, the inviolability of someone's reputation, riba, and saying something that your brother is, even if he's your enemy, that he doesn't like. Yeah. Now there are, of course, there's times and places where the haram can be overturned, but as long as there's a process, the due process is followed.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm saying is a lot of it, scholars don't have time to go into these petty things. And so a lot of it will be people that are on the lower level making the decisions themselves. What I'm saying is that I represent probably in the last 3 to 5 years, 3 years in particular, probably another side of the spectrum. The other side has been silence. I think if we're being totally honest, the silent approach has not been particularly fruitful. In fact, a lot of groups have been able to grow because of that. Because if sometimes you feel like they're unchallenged, then there is this kind of like undefeated mentality. Even though they've got heavy punches and glass jaws, and once you hit them in the face, then they drop. But the point is that the other approach is
there were some hidden messages in that, then I completely lost me.
Some people can
I haven't been following any.
because some people can dish it out, but they don't like getting it back. And if you let people like that bully you in the public sphere or in the private sphere, then you will be bullied. You'll be the subject of being bullied. You and your community.
Of course, there's a maslaha and mafsada.
Yeah, and it's subjective. Right? It's subjective.
That's why we have a due process.
And a lot of it, there is due process, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is actually like, what do I think? It's consequentialist reasoning. It's mahd consequentialist reasoning. If X, then Y, or if I do X, then Y. And that some people make an argument that if I respond to them, then it will just be tit for tat or whatever. Yeah. But then this will have this effect and it will do this to the youth. Yeah, and sorry, this is not a hard and fast situation. This is a situation where people are making value judgment based on subjectivity, and I don't see how being necessarily equipped in certain hadiths are going to help you with this. This is actually a mas'ala of consequences. Let's assess the consequences. Maslaha mafsada. See, and what kind of maslaha is it? Maslaha mursala.
We're talking about a maslaha to overturn an established. The asl is clear, right?
Which one?
Of you don't backbite, for example.
No, but backbiting is not. The issue is if someone does something in public, it's not backbiting.
Yeah, but it's still backbiting, but it's allowed to. And that permission, like you're starving to death, you can drink alcohol or whatever. Although I don't know if that will actually help you.
No, if the person's doing something publicly, then you respond publicly, then it's not backbiting.
That's an example of the fatwa may be given to overturn the asl. He did it in public, and this is the consequence, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, person with knowledge, person with authority, more importantly, this is where we overlook this, will for a temporary time suspend the asl ruling and go after that person, right?
No, it's not backbiting. If you're like, for example, if some
it's not haram.
Like if person X comes out and says this and that person is a mubtada, because 1, 2, 3, and then person Y who is being accused of that comes and says, okay, well, let's look at these masail 1, 2, 3. Are they issues where tabdi'ah is possible? I don't see that where backbiting comes into it. This person thinks, well, from his side, the person X here, he might have that reasoning, the suspending of the asl, because but for the person Y, it's not really that reasoning. It's the reasoning.
Yeah, he's just a bystander. He's watching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he's responding. So in the case of those who are responding, okay, the question is, should we respond or should we just completely ignore? And the answer is, well, look, it depends on your temperament. It depends on the cost-benefit analysis that you put for yourself. It depends on whatever.
But you agree there's a process, Sharia process, right?
For what?
Asal, not for any kind of abstract kind of alphabet, algebra, X, Y, Z. Like a person, you mentioning a Muslim in a light which he would dislike.
ذكرك أخاك لما يكره.
That's the definition process.
But that would apply to the person making that mention. If the person
anyone,
person defending themselves,
of course,
says I am not X, Y, Z because of Y, A, B, C.
In fact, it may be a virtue to defend yourself.
Yeah,
I'm talking about that definition of that the Prophet ﷺ gave, of backbiting. That's the thing, we see like we might see, I remember back in the day when I was younger, you would say, oh yeah, non-Muslim country, you can eat the haram stuff or whatever. Maybe someone took a fatwa from your life is in danger, whatever, and things kind of transmutate thereafter. Likewise, now in today's day and age, where it's so easy to backbite, these types of exceptions to the rule have become popular. I'm not saying you do. I'm following.
No, I know.
But it's something too common. It's almost so that the
we need to spell out
what
we're talking about here.
Yeah, the honor of the Muslim
has
become less sacrosanct.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
And it's just
But I think we've now moved on to a different topic altogether. The first topic we were talking about was responding to certain groups, right? So for example,
it can be included.
Refutations. We're talking about refutations.
Refutation is.
All right. So refutations. Okay. If certain people, now there are two approaches. What I'm saying is, in refuting people. First of all, the question is refuting someone, for example, tabdi'ah or takfiri, people that are posing a considerable roadblock to the dawah, is that something worth doing or not? That's the question. Some scholars and mashayikh have said no, let's just ignore them. Some scholars and mashayikh said no, let's respond to them.
Depends on because this is what the world would look like had this been a matter of ijtihad, of overturning an asl, right? I'm trying to get people to look at this not through the language of the fatwa given, but for the language of the asl.
What's the asl?
The asl is
asl of what? Of rudud?
No, asl of dhikru akhaka
lima yakrah.
Yeah. That mentioning your brother in a way that he doesn't like, what he doesn't like.
This is the ghiba is something which is done when he's not there. If I call you right now, okay, and I speak to you directly, it's not ghiba, is it?
But that's worse. If I say
no,
in a way that I don't like.
It's not actually worse at all. No, it's not. That's wrong. What you're saying is
no,
false.
In a way, like
if I
negative.
If I say to you something, sarihan, like if I say to you, you need to lose weight, just like I do, whatever, yeah. If I say to you like that, you might not like.
But that wouldn't be backbiting. In
but
maybe, depending on the person.
If I said it outside of your presence,
yeah,
that would be backbiting.
Possibly.
It would be backbiting. It would be. Yes, it would be. If I say this guy needs to lose weight, that would be backbiting.
Because it's ماذا يكره أخاك.
Yeah, it's exactly right. But if I came to you, if I said it to you indirectly, me and you both need to lose weight. We're both looking like we need to lose weight, which is true statement. Yeah, we need to stop drinking this, whatever. Yeah, that's nasiha now. It's something which has become halal is haram. Now, if I call you on the phone, you see, I'm not backbiting you. If I know that you will watch a video, if
a direct message, fair enough. Yeah,
no. If someone puts something someone puts something on YouTube,
that's
and then you respond to them on YouTube.
That's to the whole world, man.
But no problem. But the brother is involved in that as well. Yeah, how is that backbiting?
Because that's in front of everyone else.
That's not backbiting.
If he doesn't like it could be. That's
it's not backbiting.
That's my argument.
It's like going to a public square and speaking to someone in front of everyone.
Yeah, when you have the choice to privately give nasiha.
No. What I'm saying is you're talking about backbiting.
You're saying nasiha versus backbiting. Yeah? Nasiha is kind of clear.
If somebody makes a video in public, I respond in public. We are both seeing what we are. I see what he's doing. He sees what I'm doing. There's no backbiting going on there. That's a direct message in front of the people.
Then you see what does the Sharia say about advising people in public?
That's a different mas'ala. Good. Now, because you were saying the asl is backbiting.
No, but it is. If you agree, backbiting is haram.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. This is not backbiting.
What takes the ruling of backbiting? Yeah,
this is not backbiting. This is either way. Even if the person does it in the first place, I will see it. So it's not like he's hiding from me and.
Yeah.
You know when Allah in the Quran he says أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Does one of you wish that he eats the flesh of his dead brother that he ate? Why is it the flesh of his dead brother? Because the man cannot protect himself. If he was there, he could protect himself. If he was there.
Likewise, if he's on YouTube, right?
No, but he's public. It's public. It's not backbiting because it's.
I mean, not you. I'm not talking about you.
No, I'm not.
Generally, imagine a random commenter, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. If a commenter, look, it depends on what the commenter is saying, right? This is different. If two YouTubers are speaking to each other, right, and both of them can see one another, and both.
This is ajib to me, man.
There's nothing ajib about this.
No. I mean, this whole thing about YouTubers.
No. But if someone,
I have an account by the way on YouTube. I have 37 subscribers.
But did you see the
I don't have any. I never spoken to anyone on YouTube though. That's the thing. That's like for me, it's public. If I put a video out,
if someone puts a comment, which is unlikely for me to see it, it all goes back to the question of how likely is it for me to see it. If the likelihood is 95%, like that I'm going to see it, it's no longer backbiting. So
doesn't it have the same? What's the illah of backbiting? It's the preservation of honor, right? Or one of the thing that you're tarnishing someone's reputation in a Sharia sense.
The question of whether backbiting has illah or it's ta'abudi, that's another question. The question, but what I'm saying to you is,
did anyone say it's not ma'qul al-ma'na?
It's not. I'm saying we don't know whether it's ta'abudi or whether it's ma'lul. That's a question. That's another question that's to be asked.
We do know that. Does anyone? I mean. That's anyway. Going into the thing,
it's too detailed.
It was just more like a.
But
it was just a kind of a.
The point is that, if someone's making messages if someone's commenting and stuff, and it's unlikely for me to read that, but someone's talking about me, in a way that I don't like it, that could be backbiting. If someone's making comment on you in a 37 channel video,
rap,
you know whatever it is. And it's unlikely for you to see that, but other people will see it. That could be backbiting. So for me, there's probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that backbiting me, which I'll see on the day of judgment, inshallah. Honestly, I don't forgive anyone. Just to let everyone know, I don't forgive anyone. I do not forgive anybody. No, honestly.
Don't be so hasty. Maybe you will.
I need all the good deeds that I can get. So on the day of judgment, I will be taking those good deeds, especially because you cause someone pain. I've already explained it does cause pain. So I'm going to take the good deeds. I'm going to take the things. That is backbiting. But to be fair, other people who make videos about me, even if they don't like me or something,
Has anyone made a video about you?
Oh yeah. But what I'm saying, if someone makes a video, that's not really I wouldn't even say that's backbiting.
So you forgive them?
With those people, I'm more likely to forgive them because think about it, bro. Yeah. If they are right, then they are reducing the burden on me. Because if I'm saying something that is wrong, deviated or corrupt.
Does that happen often?
Maybe. If I'm saying something that's deviated or corrupt or something like that, then they are lowering the burden on me on the day of judgment. But if I'm saying something that is right and they are just attacking me because of ulterior motives and their sincerity is not in check, then I would take that from them on the day of judgment for spreading news which is false about me and slandering me or whatever it is, So it's a win-win situation for me. As for them, if they are sincere, even if there's someone out there that makes tabdi' out of me, or even takfir, even though I don't like those things, and I think that those things are abhorrent, the way that they carry it out. But I still believe that those who do those things, if they're doing it sincerely, la'alla Allah, maybe Allah perhaps will forgive them, and maybe even reward them for it.
Has anyone ever said, "Oh, this guy, man, made a video about you or whatever. He's stupid, you're deviant, whatever," and then you thought, "Wait a second, you're right. I was wrong."
There's a lot of things
I would change I would concede.
Critics have
really delete a video. Have you deleted a video?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've probably made about 5 or 6 retractions in the last 5 or 6 years. Major retractions. You know, there have been retractions that I've made, and look, I mean, as I say, critics can sometimes be great teachers. Yeah. And that's what our egos don't want us to admit.
I heard Umar radiallahu anhu say, "May Allah have mercy on those who point out our faults."
Yeah.
You don't want to be surrounded by yes men.
Exactly. No, it's good to have them. To be honest, they're useful. They sharpen me up.
There you go. If you're watching, if you want to take him out, he said, feel free to do a video, YouTube video against him.
If you can, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should absolutely try. No problem. But
but I'm going to hit back.
No. I sometimes will hit back. And sometimes I'll just leave it be. But the point is, you know, I have learned a lot from my critics.
Do you think I should start doing some public refutations of people? There's some people, who I would happily refute. People who,
if you want me to get, I think
they put milk in before the tea. You know,
I don't know why you look. Islam 21C deals with much more controversial topics than some simpletons doing refutations from their homes. I wouldn't ask an organization like Islam 21C to get involved in that.
I mean, on my 37 subscriber channel.
Yeah, you can get involved in that. From time to time, you know,
keeps the blood flowing. MashaAllah. Anyway, we got another segment now. It's called, what's it called again? You've Been Served, right?
Yeah.
There you go. You've been served. If you run into a bear in the woods, name one thing you should not do.
Depends on what kind of bear. So if it's a grizzly bear, you shouldn't move. You should actually pretend to be dead.
Okay, so that might be actually the right thing, but that's what our service says.
Talking about?
I mean, these are the people. Maybe they don't, their knowledge of grizzly bear encounters isn't as in-depth.
It depends on what kind of bear. There's a blue bear, grizzly bear. Just tell them to be quiet.
Which ones go and live in the woods?
What kind of woods? Forest.
Pooh bear. All right. Any others? Now, one thing that you shouldn't do. What's the most common thing you reckon that people said you should not do?
I don't care what they say. Who cares what they say?
MashaAllah.
You know, who cares what they say? What the people say? Who
cares what they say?
Democracy.
This is about, do you know the people? Do you know people? Yeah, you have to understand.
I don't know what they're
empathy,
going to say. What they say?
Sociopathy.
What they say?
Right. Shall I give you number one?
Yeah, go on.
Don't feed it.
Don't feed it.
Yeah, that's probably a good life advice. Number two, fight it.
What? Well, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't try fighting.
If it's a blue bear, you should fight it. Apparently, according to some experts.
Only if you're a Khabib and you're not.
No. Even if you're not, it'll run away. Even if you shout and scream, it can run away.
By the way, this is not professional bear handling advice. Please take whatever's said in this program with a pinch of salt. Don't sue us.
Go and check it online. Right? What to do if you meet a bear? I checked this online.
Yeah, you prepared for this.
Yeah, I've been to places.
Third thing is pet it. Fourth is approach it. Don't approach it. Which is kind of like your answer.
If you make loud noises, it goes away.
There's also kind of a looming threat that they respond to sometimes if you come towards it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's wrong advice. I don't know.
No problem.
All right, second question. If you lived with a bodybuilder, name a word you'd often hear around the house.
Protein.
Nice. Protein is number 3, the third most common.
Needles.
So it says.
Syringe.
Nope. Is that what you were doing around the corner, just injecting us? I thought it was insulin or something. So protein, yeah.
What else would you hear? Like reps, sets, stuff like that.
Gym, number 5, yes. We need a ding.
Meals, I know.
I'll give you that. Diet is number 1.
Yeah.
Close number 2 is what? What's this?
Muscles.
Muscle, yep. And one more left.
Are you sure that's muscle?
Number 4. Bro, it's 95% fat, 5% muscle.
What's the question?
Weights.
Oh, okay.
Similar.
All right.
Okay. All right, third question.
Pointless exercise, isn't it, you think?
Pardon?
Do you think there's a pointless exercise?
What? No, it helps you in doing daily tasks like this.
Go on.
All right. Name something a man might do at the gym to impress a woman.
To impress a woman. Do you know what
There's
you
only
would
3 answers here.
Okay, since this is nonsense, I'm just gonna make a joke out of this. Do you know what do you know what you would do to impress a woman?
What?
Not show up. Come on.
Huh?
That's right.
How my
right.
feelings. All right, go on. 3.
Impress a
There's
woman.
only 3 answers. See.
Just
Mashallah,
pump heavy
pious.
weights.
Pious. All right, lift weights. Yeah, that's number 1.
Shadow boxing. I see that.
No.
I see that a lot.
You're famous for this one.
What, flexing?
Oh yeah, it's number 2. Flexing. You're famous for the 3rd one as well.
Wait, take your shirt off.
Yep, there you go. Mashallah, you got it. I wanted to ask you about your experience with Jordan Peterson. And you mentioned, I saw a video of yours having a chat with him, mashallah. And you mentioned that you've kind of read all his books and literature and stuff. And I was wondering what was your engagement like? And what do you think about this? Some of his... Is it a good person for Muslims, you reckon, to read up on? Does he have some good kind of insights?
Yeah,
that
of course he has good insights, and there's no doubt about that. He's a specialist in his field.
Mm-hmm.
He's got good life advice, and he has some views which are commensurate with the Islamic worldview. But I think the reason why he's become very popular in the West is because he's giving something that the Westerners are most thirsty for, which is guidance, rules. People want this kind of thing. They want to have structure to their life, organization. They've had enough of the hedonistic lifestyle. People have had enough of it. Just waking up, slobs, eating food, pleasure, pleasure seeking and that kind of thing. Ironically, pleasure seeking has become something which has created the most pain. So I guess from that perspective, I see why there's a hype around him, and he has some real legitimate insight based on his clinical experience, not just his academic experience. So there's a lot to learn from it, that I've learned from him, from his books, and there's a lot to learn from him in general. Yeah,
I haven't read his books yet, but I've seen a few of his lectures, and they seem, quite insightful. I was just wondering, what do you think that thing was? That draws. He's quite a polarizing figure.
Who isn't?
For some people.
I mean, almost every successful person in the human history is polarizing. So, I mean, successful, influential, let's just say. So it's not.
Well, some people bring people together, right?
Who? Like who?
I mean, like the Prophet ﷺ.
Well, he also was polarizing. Because
to a degree, that's like
people rejected him.
Batil,
yeah, well, there you have
it. In terms of, so you're saying the polarization he brings about is like a haqq and batil thing? Or?
Yeah, of course we say that, yeah.
So no one who disagrees with him is on the haqq?
Yeah, that's what we believe, right? Yeah. But the point is, he was still polarizing in that sense. That you will not find a person.
No, I'm talking about Jordan Peterson. Someone who disagrees. Is it possible to disagree with him?
Oh.
And be put off by him whilst being on the haqq?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the matter, I guess, Yeah. Depends on what he's talking about.
It's interesting to see people need kind of structure and guidance and stuff.
Yeah,
Is that right. What his main kind of message is about?
Yeah, I mean, that's what his books are about. 12 rules and 12 more rules. It's all about rules for life. That's what they are. And the things that he mentions, almost all of them in the first book are okay with Islam. In the second book, there's a couple of things that he's like abandoned ideology, which is, to be frank, ridiculous. Because what do we mean by ideologies? Is it a system of set of ideas, or what is it we're talking about? And obviously, you can argue that there's nothing that does not have an ideology. Everything is driven by some sort of lens that you're looking at the world through. So for him to write Abandon Ideology, but in other places he talks about individualism, and he speaks about individualism, in a positive sense. And
how does that square with your?
Because that's an ideology. I mean, individualism. I'm not saying that the thing is, you can't really put him in a box, Peterson. It would be wrong to say that he's an individualist. Just like it would probably be wrong to... Some people call him a classical liberal. There's truth in that he obviously believes in aspects of the liberal tradition and aspects of individualism. However, he's not easily put into a box, because if you look at his latest book, he talks a lot about institutions. I think one of his rules was something to do with preserving institutions and following them. So that's more of a collectivist discourse, a communitarian, you could say. Not collectivist, but I'll say it's a communitarian discourse. So from that perspective,
liberals aren't traditionally anti
communitarian
institutions and
No, I'm with you. But what I'm saying is, it's difficult to put him in that kind of easy box. But what I will say is that saying abandon ideology is almost an untenable venture from the...
there's probably some specific meaning he must...
he meant it in that way. He definitely meant it in that way, which...
Even it's abandon ideology, even my own.
Abandon... Think about it. It's ironic because it's prescriptive itself. And ideologies are more normative and prescriptive. So if you say abandon ideology, the irony in it is that, that could be an ideological statement. The statement itself is ideological.
What do you think his detractors and kind of dislike about him? And did you have any backlash from your discussion with him?
I'm sure he has different detractors. Not everyone that disagrees with him is wrong. Like I said, these kind of things that we're just talking about here, there's some... If you look at his philosophical thoughts and, ideas, some of them are really dysfunctional. They don't work together. For example, his pragmatism on the one hand. I don't want to get into it. It's a very long story, but he has ideas which don't... He's a pragmatist on the one hand, but on the other, pragmatism is basically saying that truth with a capital T doesn't exist out there in the real world in a correspondence stereotype way. But on the other hand, if you look at his books and how he expresses psychological discussion, he'll critique a theory based on its lack of evidence, but that presupposes a correspondence theory of
there is some kind of reality
outside correspondence theory of epistemology, right? So his epistemology is pragmatism when he talks about religion, but for all intents and purposes, although he doesn't spell out in this way, it's correspondence when he's doing his psychology. So there is a tension there, and I don't think he's got it all mapped out. And in fact, there was one particular discussion with Sam Harris that he had, not the 3 or 4 major ones that he had, because I watched all these things, and there was one particular one where he was actually speaking about... Sam Harris actually brought this up to him. He said to him, I want to try and remember exactly the words that he used. He said, you can believe in what you believe in, but it will be at your peril. And then Jordan Peterson responded, and this is, by the way, it's not even there's no video of this, it's all audio. It's a podcast on Sam Harris's thing. And then Jordan Peterson responds to it, and he says, it has been at my peril. It's very interesting. One of the most telling things I've ever seen or heard from Jordan Peterson, because he's admitting a situation of where he's in a toil because he doesn't have his epistemology worked out. And you can see that he works in this way where, for example, he approaches religion in a certain manner, where he wants truth to be malleable and flexible, but then, once again, in his practice, he's not like that. Talk about psychology, he's not like that. And I think this is causing him some level of cognitive dissonance. There is a problem here in the way in which He conceptualizes faith.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I did say that, but I didn't spell it out. And that's why you'll see that, for example, in his Genesis series, which I watched, actually, his biblical series and stuff, because, when I was preparing for it, I actually prepared, I watched everything. And in his biblical series, you'll see that he's metaphorizing the text, okay? And at one point, he actually does quote Origen of Alexandria.
What's that?
Origen of Alexandria was an ecclesiastical church writer, one of the most voluminous of his kind in the first 300 years of Christianity. I think he died 250 after the disappearance of Jesus. And he was a representative of the Alexandrian school of exegesis. And this school was known for what they were called spiritualizing the text, doing ta'wil, basically, majaz, that the text is metaphoric. And Origen of Alexandria, I did some work on him when I was at the University of Oxford. Actually, I did one particular study on him and looking at how he, compared to other church writers, they conceive of the text. Yeah, and basically, the Alexandrian school was atypical, was aberrational compared to the other schools in exegesis, in tafsir.
So they're heretical.
Well, there was something called the Origin crisis. So he was not made a saint in the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church, which is why he's referred to not as a church father, but as an ecclesiastic church writer. Having said that Origin crisis happened, by the way, after his death, I think somewhere in the 4th century. But the point is that he quoted him, Peterson quoted Origen of Alexandria, maybe in his 3rd or 4th lecture on the topic, because he was aware of the spiritualizing impact or approach that Origen of Alexandria has to the text. However, I came across a particular extract where Origen of Alexandria was having a discussion with an apologist who was a Greek, someone who believed in Platonism, I think, right? Platonist, who wasn't a Christian. And he said to him, his name was Celsus, Celsus, yeah? And he said to him, how could it be that, I'm paraphrasing, but how could it be that your God died on the cross, basically? Yeah, something like that, right? And then he said, and then Origen of Alexandria, he said the events of the crucifixion, not all of them must be read like literally, and that some of it has to be spiritualized, basically. The point is that I'm making, if you do spiritualize the text, meaning metaphorize it, at the rate and the frequency and the degree, and using the same kind of hermeneutical approach that someone like Origen of Alexandria was using in the early days, because that's the only precedent they really have. He had a teacher called Philo, who's a Jew, by the way, but he had the same kind of approach, standard approach to biblical text. But if you follow that line of reasoning, then the crucifixion itself could be something which is called into question. The crucifixion itself, which means Christianity becomes a myth. The entire religion of Christianity becomes a myth. The crucifixion, the resurrection, the ascension, all these doctrines that we have to, the incarnation. So why is that all not mythological? In fact, what makes us think that one is mythological and the other one is not? If this is all etiology, the idea of myth, and then why do we discriminate in what we render as a myth and what we render as possible? So I think that Jordan Peterson, because he mentions this in Maps of Meaning, the beginning of one of his books, he mentions that when he was a young man, he kind of like, he got doubts of Christianity because of the biblical narrative of Genesis in particular. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because it's obviously not commensurate with the scientific method or anything scientific. But it's completely away from it. So this is, I'm thinking to myself, because he's a religious man in many ways, right? He doesn't say it, and if he doesn't answer, never answered once, whether he believes in God in a yes or no fashion. Never. The maximum he's ever said is, I act as if I believe in God. That's why I never asked him that question, or never even engaged him, because I know he doesn't want to answer that question, you see. But having said that, That's his answer. His answer is, I act as if I believe in, or I act as if God exists. But despite that, he's a religious man, in the sense that he does obviously see there's a meaningfulness to the Christian tradition in particular, comparative to other traditions, you see. So why is he not speaking about the Vedas, for example? Why is he not speaking about Hercules and Zeus? Why are these sets of myths, Western myths, better than these other sets of myths?
Because that's his background.
There must be something about these myths there must be a truth about these myths which make these other sets of myths less truthful, or not as valuable, or not as worthy of being exegeted or studied. That's the assumption here why you spend X amount of time speaking about the Bible comparative to, for example, the Bhagavad Gita.
Well, it could be just this is a Western.
Yeah, but so is Hercules and so is Zeus, right? That's Western as well, right? Mithraism, that's Western as well.
That's how it's projected now, back projected, it's claimed.
Yeah,
you know?
But the point is, these are myths that he's chosen, aside from other myths and other Western myths like that, right? Having said all, and by the way, sorry to say, Christianity is not a Western religion. It starts in the
Western
Middle East.
Christianity.
Yeah, but Christianity started off in the Middle East. If you wanted something cleanly Western, then the ancient Greek tradition is more. No, it is. Because, Jesus Christ was a Middle Eastern man, right? They worship a Middle Eastern man. So let's not lose sight of where Christianity actually started, which is in the Middle East, in Jerusalem and these places, Bethlehem. Anyway, the point is why these myths are not others, for whatever reason, yeah? There must be some added value of these myths and not other myths. But then, the question is, how are we going to exegete the Bible? If we exegete it all as mythological, then it's, for all intents and purposes, not true. But remember, he's a pragmatist. And there's a reason, this is
those bits that have some
I don't want to be conspiratorial.
utility.
I do not want to be conspiratorial here. Yeah. But if you're a pragmatist, then you accept different kinds of truth. But if you accept different kinds of... So you're able to accept the religious truth as a separate substratum of different kinds of truth. But he's a pragmatist when it comes to this, as I've mentioned, but clearly not when it comes to even speaking about language itself. He speaks about language in correspondence terms. He speaks about...
and he seems to be very anti-deconstructionism, and that some posit, argue against grammar.
Pragmatism. Okay, let me put this closer to the mind, right? Pragmatism, neo-pragmatism, people like Richard Rorty, who are the foremost proponents of it, are the neo-pragmatists of today. People like Susan Hack, who's written Critical Inquiry, she's a neo-pragmatist. Historically, there was a group of people called the American Pragmatists in the early 20th century. They kind of started off, if you like, the madhab, the school of thought. But so pragmatism is like that. Now, if you're a pragmatist, you don't believe in a truth that is out there. Okay, Richard Rorty, who is one of the foremost pragmatists of today, was also a postmodernist. Just to put this in perspective,
because they tend to go.
Yeah, he's a foremost postmodernist, and he's a foremost pragmatist. Can you see the tension here? Jordan Peterson, in other places of his book, he attacks postmodernism because postmodernism clearly is against kind of the conservative values, which he espouses in other places. He doesn't call it that, and once again, it wouldn't be right to call him a conservative. All these caveats in place. Yet, he's clearly against postmodernism, clearly. And he's clearly against nihilism. But his pragmatist views are actually so commensurate with those things that it's almost inconceivable to try and differentiate these.
Counter-dissonance, like you said, he's holding to...
Yes, so I actually think that Richard Dawkins and others must think about whether or not they are cognitively dissonant, because on the one hand,
you said Richard Dawkins.
Did I say so? Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson on your mind. Could be because when he said that time, when he was speaking to Sam Harris, when Sam Harris said to him, "It will be at your peril," and he said, "It has been at my peril." What does it mean when he said, in the first person, "It has been at my peril"? That means to say that he's already found this stuff hard to conciliate. And that it's causing him discomfort. which is an exact definition, practically, of cognitive dissonance.
Which is where you come in with the go rap.
Which is where we come in as Muslims and say there's a solution to this problem, which is a firm anchorage 1, 2, 3, which I've already explained to him in the discussion. But we have to first diagnose the issue a bit more. And that's why I do think, that there is added value in the Islamic discourse, which Christianity cannot actually compete with it. So this has got to be. We'll talk about him. Why people gravitate towards him, because he's an anchor in the age of chaos, and there's truth in that. He offers rules and organization and all these kind of self-control tactics. That's all true and good. But he hasn't yet sorted out his own epistemology.
Yeah,
he himself is in peril, according to his own discussion.
So we've discussed him as in his own kind of personal philosophy and so forth, and his epistemology. But what about him as a phenomenon? Right, yes. He is. One of his biggest, or one group of his biggest critics are, maybe we might call them describe them as feminists, right?
Yep.
What problem do they have with him? And as a result, because the reason why I'm interested in that is, we don't want to start like a whole podcast about feminism.
Right. Okay, so
in terms of
Peterson,
Muslims often wander into debates amongst
Jordan Peterson,
groups, philosophies, and tech sides.
Okay, so, Jordan Peterson. He's on the one hand, he has, I'm going to put this crudely, he has a jumbled epistemology. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've said this to him. It's not, he has a jumbled epistemology.
It's not backbiting.
Okay, he has a jumbled epistemology. Okay, he has a jumbled epistemology, which we've described, the pragmatism, which is incommensurate with the scientific approach when it comes to psychology and stuff, which is incommensurate with whatever, yeah, which has been causing him problems, psychological problems. It has been at his peril. That's his words exactly. It has been at my peril. All of those things, yeah. However, when it comes to psychology, he's pretty diligent. He is. And in fact, the way he argues the anti-feminist case is largely a psychological discussion. So in psychology, there's something called the Big Five, which are basically 5 different traits that people have, like trait conscientiousness, agreeableness, openness, whatever it is, yeah? I don't have them to hand. But 5 traits which basically people are, quizzed about. And
personality
traits. So he makes the argument that looking at how men answer these different kind of questions and so on, and looking at how women do it, there's clearly a difference. There's a marked difference between men's personality traits versus women's personality traits. So he makes a case from psychology. So because he's making a case from kind of like a scientific background, though we must put down that this is not strictly natural sciences, and Karl Popper referred to psychology as a pseudoscience. He did. But whatever it is, he's coming from that angle. It's more accepted, actually. I think he's changed the discourse immensely, by the way. I think that his views on gender have changed the discourse very dramatically in the Western world. And I think he's been at the fore of actually changing a lot of people's minds about feminism. When we started this discussion talking about where people change their views, he actually represents one of the very few public figures that has able to get people away from one ideology and into another, or at least away from one ideology, which in this case is feminism. Mm-hmm. He's been one of the most successful in that respect, because he is backing his evidences with very solid data, not just the Big Five, but all kinds of things. Like he goes into neurology, physiology, psychology, of course.
Hey, it's me again. Just had a thought, and I was wondering how many of you watching this podcast know that Unscripted is just one of our products. Did you know that we have 15 different projects, each working towards our vision to see every Muslim confident impact in the world, each in a unique and different way? If you didn't know this, then where have you been? We do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and even this. If you didn't know that, then I know what's wrong. You're not connected to us properly. You're missing out on all our updates. No problem. The simple fix is you need to get onto our mailing list quick and follow us on Telegram, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, not just on YouTube. Hold on. How many of you have subscribed to us here? Come on, how else are you going to catch all the other podcasts, short films, reminders and series that we produce on here? Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and go to the description right now to join us on our other platforms to catch all the non-video projects that we do all year round.
Yeah,
is that something feminists would disagree with?
They would disagree
that
with
there's some differences between men and women? Or is it
feminists don't disagree with the fact that there are differences between men and women. I mean, Simone de Beauvoir, in her book, she has a whole chapter on biology, and she discusses them candidly. Almost all feminists of the second wave persuasion, with that caveat, agree that there are differences. Germaine Greer agrees, Betty Friedan agrees. All of these big names of the second wave complexion, they agree. It's just that they think that it's inconsequential to the treatment of women, or that despite those differences, that there shouldn't be any differences in treatment. Whereas Peterson has a different tone altogether. He does it. He speaks when he gives advice giving to, for example, mothers or women in their 30s. It's like, okay, well, we got to think about whether you want to have kids or not. I like the way he gives advice to women. I actually prefer that way, because there's a lot of people that speak sanctimoniously to women from our side. And I think actually men have a lot to learn from that, because he's saying, well, you got to think about this, you got to think about that. And he's basing it all on what he sees in terms of trends, right? In terms of his clinical practice. He's a psychologist. But he also has
patience.
He actually has patience. He's a clinical psychologist, but he actually has patience. He writes this in his book. It's not just like, ivory tower guy. So he's noticed trends, for example, women in their 30s, mid-30s to whatever, wanting to have children, or that they're stuck between the career lifestyle and this kind of lifestyle. And he says, well, this is basically, he's coming more from an advisory, clinical perspective, giving advice. And so I think that it's much more well received by women. Some women, of course, not all. Some women will still be triggered by him, but much better received than has been in our traditionalist circles. From that perspective, there's a lot to learn from him. So Jordan Peterson has been...
Do you then describe yourself as an anti-feminist?
Well, I don't like to describe myself as an anti-anything, because, why would I describe myself in negative terms? Like, as if to give importance to that ideology that I have to describe myself as counter to it, like an ex-Muslim. Like, well, when you're saying I'm an anti-this or I'm an ex-this, it's almost as if you're saying...
Or a non-feminist.
Yeah, I'm not a feminist.
If someone says, are you a feminist?
I say no.
Would you give a... See, I normally don't answer those questions, because maybe it's because I don't know enough about feminism, but to me it seems like
if someone asks
such
if
a
you're a
vacuous
Christian
term, because Christian has at least some level of definition, especially from our tradition.
No, but so does feminism.
From our discourse, right?
So does feminism.
But feminism, I normally say, look, depends what you mean.
No, I think it's a weak response. And this goes back to the point of temperament that we were talking about in the beginning. It has to be straightforward sometimes. Honestly, if someone asks you, are you a Christian? You'd say yes or no. You'd say no, right? So likewise, feminism has certain attitudes towards women in the household and so on, domestic drudgery, and second wave particularly, and third wave is all about...
So that going into that detail now, granular detail now, that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't have to...
The average person on the street...
Oh, Salman, look, you don't have to think about it too much.
The average person on the street doesn't know all these first wave, second wave, third wave, all that kind of stuff.
You'd be surprised. I was teaching first wave feminism to year 9s in school. They learn this stuff. I mean, I don't think so. I think year 10s and 11s. Now we have an educated public. People know about these things, man. So yeah, if someone were to ask you, well, by the same token as well, in addition, you could say, well, not many people in the streets know what Islam is or Christianity is, but they can. If you ask somebody who's not a Muslim, are you a Muslim? He'll say, I'm not a Muslim. So if a 10-year-old child can say that which is antithetical to what we are, then we as grown men, especially in the dawah, should be able to easily say, no, we're not this thing. There has to be a level of barat here, You see what I mean? So
I'm taking it from the perspective, any newly invented ideology, because the atmosphere of Western philosophy, and especially in modernity, is naturally caricatures and polarities and reductionism, holism, rationalism, empiricism, left wing, right wing. These polarities, they don't. Nobody's really one pure thing, right? It's just for the purpose of justifying grants for academic research. People, they make a mountain out of a molehill. So I try to normally just take the Ibn Taymiyyah's approach in terms of like sifat. He says,
Ibn Taymiyyah,
if you mean this, then I'm not this. If you mean that, then I'm not that. Then I am that.
No. You're confusing the categories here. Ibn Taymiyyah would do that with concepts, not with labels. He would not do this with labels. If someone asked him, like, are you from the Qaramita? He would say, no, I'm not. Are you from the Ash'ara? He would say no to that.
But the labels are drawn from concepts, right?
No. But he would differentiate the two things.
Say, okay, feminism then.
Yes, that's a label.
Feminist. Feminism,
what about it?
A concept. Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
So, would you describe?
It's like Yahudiyya. Yeah. It's like Judaism. I'm more of a Jew than I am a feminist. I think you are as well. No. Especially when it comes.
That's a good quote. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm more of a Jew in terms of jurisprudence than I am a feminist, and I think you are as well. But you
I probably am, but
no, you definitely are. Or your views on gender segregation, your views on, for example, marriage and divorce, your views on prayer and God, all of those things. You're more of a. If that's the case.
So what do you say to those?
And this goes back to the issue of like, what do we define a religion as? Because Charles Taylor had a very interesting definition of it, which is that anything which is transcendental and encompassing idea, and that includes. Well, yeah, I mean, not many. I mean, people know this, but a lot of sociologists had this kind of a definition of religion. The point is we need to be like you were talking about being, confident, and we need to take from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when He says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. It's who is better in speech than the one who does da'wah and says I'm one of the Muslims. Yeah,
so these are clear-cut issues, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the issues with Muslims, Islamic discourse, when people feel under attack or beleaguered, is they'll mistake just harshness and performances of religiosity for the actual real thing, the real deal, the authenticity, So that kind of machismo and being harsh against the kuffar, and this is, black and white kind of mentality, we're forced into that, or we're pushed in that direction when we feel beleaguered. Just like when a country is attacked, they're going to choose the most right-wing leader, the most strict SOB they can find. Right?
Well, I mean, look, don't forget, a lot of what you're describing...
So we have to be, in terms of just being just and kind of, I don't like this word, nuance, but you know what I mean, right? In terms of... There's one thing that I know, this is my view, this is of these definitions, this is what this label means. But then the average public, you have to see, what is this person going to say? A lot of Muslims might describe themselves as feminists because their understanding of that thing, you might think their understanding is wrong. Yeah, fair enough. But their understanding, how would you say, what would you say to a Muslim feminist? Look into the camera and say, they're Muslim feminists.
I don't want to address anyone in that manner. What I will say is, look, you've said two things there. Let's deal with each one. The prophets, alayhim salam, they dealt with things properly, For example, Nuh alayhi salam in the Quran. He said, إِن تَسْخَرُوا مِنَّا فَإِنَّا نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ. If you make fun of us, then we're going to make fun of you like you make fun of us.
One day, in the akhirah.
No, this is إِن تَسْخَرُوا. No.
The tafsir is not on Yawm al-Qiyamah?
No. This it says, إِن تَسْخَرُوا مِنَّا فَإِنَّا نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ وَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. Then that's what you're talking about. مَن يَأْتِيكُمْ عَذَابٌ يُخْزِيهِ وَيَحِلَّ عَلَيْهِمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. So if this is when he was building the ship and they were making fun of him, he said this, in this world.
We will have the last laugh, basically.
No. He's saying that if you guys make fun of us, we will make fun of you like you make fun of us. That means they are trying to attack Nuh and the people, his followers. He was a small group of people, and he said, if you do this, we will respond in kind. So it's not all a matter of, okay, well, this is, we need to look at the nuances. And no, he said, if you do it to us, we will do it to you. And then he said, and then we will see on the day of judgment who will be dealt a humiliation punishment, so on and so forth. The point is I'm making is we need to be able to have clear parameters of what we are. As a means of identity, I'm not going to. I've got 2 daughters. I'm not going to tell them that they can grow up identifying with this movement. That's not my advice to them. My advice to them is to connect themselves with the Quran, the Sunnah, you know, the many female leaders that they've had, role models that they've had. Aisha radiallahu anha, yeah? Even on their worldview, Aisha radiallahu anha is probably the most influential woman that ever lived. There's not one woman in Western history that comes close to the influence of Aisha. There's not one. Yeah. Who are you going to call? Mary Wollstonecraft? Margaret Thatcher? No, there's not one woman that in any way can compete with the level of influence. She was the second most prolific hadith narrator. She was listened to by someone to the extent to which she was even leading wars and so on. Not to say that that's something we encourage, because she even regretted that. But the idea that men listen to her to that extent.
So feminists disparage her?
No, I'm not saying that. You need to listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying that I would not tell my daughters that they need to follow, or I would not connect them to a feminist movement, which is filled with decadence and that label. Where our tradition is so wide that even on their understanding, of what creates value for a person and what means influence, the women that we have are way more influential than any woman they've ever produced. So why should we are sufficient. We do not need to look at outside ideologies. We do not need to look at feminists and so on. We need to get this right, actually, because we were talking about how do we as Muslims self-empower and so on. The first thing is to know what it means to be a Muslim. And with that, to know what it means not to be, what are things antithetical to Islam. We need that. It's not always unnuanced, because sometimes a lot of us, especially after coming into academia and so on, everything is micro discussions. Like, oh, it's about this and this nuance and that nuance. It's kind of like boring now to speak like that. That's not how the Prophet spoke. The Prophets came, this is haqq, this is batil. Clearly.
Yeah. When it comes to haqq and batil.
And feminism.
To play devil's advocate, it's a tautological to say, or circular reasoning to say.
By the way, tautology and circular reasoning are two different things.
So it's circular reasoning, to say, because it's, because the Prophets were clear and with haqq and batil, therefore this is haqq and batil, and then the devil is in the detail.
No, but what I'm saying is, when it comes to attaching yourself with an ideology, you said this is the reason why I had this discussion.
If you agree with this, if you call it an ideology, that's easier to.
Of course, who doesn't call it an ideology?
I think the average the political meaning of feminism is not an ideology. The political meaning of feminism is this is what look at public discourse. Look at politicians when the microphone is thrust into their face. Are you a feminist? No.
Feminism is an ideology, even by the admission of its main proponents, and in fact, even the dictionary definition. It's a political ideology. It's even a political ideology, and most of the definitions of feminism is like, equality, which is economic, political, and social. So its politics is involved. It's deep into the meaning of what feminism is. But the point is that what I'm saying is, why do we need to? This is a false ideology. In fact, we believe it's a false, not just an ideology, but a false one that goes against Islam. So if someone were to ask you if you're a feminist, and you say I don't know, as you previously said, that's almost. It's a weak stance, I have to say.
I say it depends what you mean as a person who's asking.
Well, it's like,
if you mean the ideology,
would you have the same answer if someone asked you if you're a communist?
No, to me, this is a reflection of my own ignorance. Then, so to me, communist is clearer as a tradition and as ideology.
Well, I mean,
some people say,
I don't understand this. You've lost me completely. I mean, you. Let's be quite honest.
I'm kind of 50% being devil's advocate here.
Okay.
But 50% I'm thinking.
Okay, well, let's
starting to believe my own hype.
Playing devil's advocate a little bit can confuse the public.
Yeah.
Especially when you sound serious. I'm saying that if you're not a feminist, it depends on what it is. then this would confuse the public. If I were to ask you if you're a communist, you say no, right? Okay, then you should have the same stance with feminism and Judaism and all the other isms.
Some parts of communism are.
But you are representative.
I'm not a card-carrying communist. I don't believe
you are a representative of what would be seen by the majority of feminists as an ultra-conservative Islamic organization, which believes in segregation, face covering, and domestic. You believe women should obey men, right? Wives should obey husbands.
Yeah, wives should obey husbands. Yeah.
All right, and no problem. Wives should obey husbands, and you believe that. Women should. What's your view? I think you have a strict view, actually, stricter than the rest of us when it comes to women. No, honestly, you have a stricter view than most of us.
Women and men are slaves.
No,
they're slaves in different ways.
In the issue of women, you were talking. You even said that people in the dawah. You were saying this in the beginning of the discussion. I said men, and then you were reluctant to even put the words women.
Brothers and sisters. Yeah.
And then you corrected yourself and said brothers only, right?
Yeah, because I don't know what the women's dawah scene is like.
No problem.
I don't watch like.
The thing is,
I don't watch like.
This is the level. This is the level. This is the level of your strictness, if from their perspective, right? No problem, whatever. Yeah. But someone like with those views, okay, you cannot be genuine.
I don't have my hopes up of being invited to any feminist rallies anytime soon.
Anyway, I mean, you see the point. You see the point I'm making. We need to be clear about things. If someone's asked you, "Are you a feminist?" you say no. Simple as that. And you need to tell your kids this as well. You need to tell your kids this as well. And I'm just telling you.
I agree with labels like that. When you put it like that, I would never answer kind of yes or anything like that. But when you're talking about feminism as a concept,
as I've said to you,
that's what I'm saying.
Look, you said you were ignorant on the matter.
Yeah.
So this is called an education, yeah? No, I'm telling you. What more do you need? I'm telling you, it's unanimously known as a political ideology, yeah? It is a political philosophy. It is an ideology. And if you're ignorant on the matter, I'm telling you, it has things which is antithetical to Islam. As a movement from the 60s till now, okay? It's antithetical to Islam. So if you say it depends, what this does is it opens a door for the shaitan to come to the Muslim ummah, to your family, to your daughter. You got daughters, right? It opens a door for these Muslim.
Got one daughter.
One daughter. That's enough. If you say if you're weak on this, and you're weak on this. No, you are. I'm being serious. If you say I don't know if I'm a feminist or not, that.
I wouldn't say like that.
No, listen to me.
I said depends what someone means.
No problem. If you speak in that manner, and then then this spills over to your daughter, then you're opening the door of shaitan for her. Because
not really, because
yes, because then when she hears feminists, she will not have the same reaction. Then my daughter will.
I think being someone ultra, if someone's conditioned to be ultra kind of negative reaction, also automatically, then I think there's a bigger chance that they're gonna be maybe kind of sympathetic to those movements because they feel.
You're wrong, and do you know why you're wrong on this issue?
Why?
If you look at the data from the 1960s to now, 1960s, 70s. The census data in this country shows that there has been a rapid irreligious movement towards agnosticism. They're called the religious nuns. We've written a small piece on this.
Say that again. A rapid movement towards
agnosticism, irreligious behavior. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at, for example, the paper that I've written called "The Scientific Deceptions of the New Atheists," which is for the Sapiens Institute. Yeah. Well, I was looking at the reason why people were leaving Christianity in droves. And the main reason that sociologists give is primary socialization from parents, yeah? And the main thing that changed in the 60s and 70s is that parents were telling their children, basically, you can do whatever you want, yeah? Or you can think of it in whatever way you like. Tolerance is good within the paradigm of Islam. And that's what we believe in. Mm-hmm. But when you go overboard, as you are going, No, I'm advising you publicly, no problem. As you go overboard and you don't even want to admit that feminism is something which is antithetical to Islam and therefore I'm not feminist.
I'm saying if someone means that, then I'm against that.
Yeah, good. But if you go overboard in the way you're doing, what you're doing is you are basically you are repeating the mistakes of those who came before you, which led to the riddah of all these Christian people. Do you know what I mean? To the apostasy of all these Christian people, and to the irreligiosity and the liberal movement.
Again, it's a secular argument, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm not.
There's nothing secular.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
When what you mean by feminism, for example, yeah, anything antithetical to Islam,
Okay.
be strict about kids.
Okay.
Say, yeah,
Look.
you
don't have the same attitude with communism. I don't understand why. There are aspects of communism which we agree with. Yeah. Are you a capitalist?
The thing is, look, these things, they mean something in a...
Are you a Jew?
No.
Okay, we have to take this seriously.
I'm not a Jew, no.
Okay, are you a Christian?
No.
Okay, are you a communist?
I mean, in the Dawah setting, I may say I'm a follower of Christ, more Christian than you.
Okay, but I'm asking
you're the kalam. My point is,
no.
There's a time and a place.
Are you a communist?
I would say no.
Okay, are you a feminist?
I would say no, based on
reaction so far. Let's just leave it as that, because that's important. Okay, just keep it straightforward. وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. Don't confuse people.
I agree that, look, the thing is, certainty is like a drug, right? We need to give people certainty in the main certain issues, right? But then when
this is one of the main ones.
When we, even it could be just in the optics of how we, in the PR, of how we come across to certain things. When we come across as overly kind of maybe shadid or uncompromising.
It doesn't matter how we come across.
Areas that there may be a shubha for people,
then
I think it's better to err on the safe side of caution and say, look, feminism can mean two things. For example, there's no harm in this. There's the academic meaning of feminism, which academics agree on, and then there's the public political meaning of feminism.
You're making a false distinction. You're making a false dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy. It's a totally false dichotomy, because feminism is a movement as well as being an ideology. But the movement is powered by the ideology. It's
there's
powered
all of
by
that.
the ideology.
And then there's what the average layperson, may understand. And there's many brothers and sisters who may say, you've come across them, I'm sure.
Yes, but all the average lay people that I've spoken to, I have the same understanding that men and women should be treated equally, which discounts the idea that men should be doing certain things that women shouldn't be doing. That completely, practically 100% of all feminists I've ever met in my entire life believe a woman should not obey a man in her house. I've never met a feminist in my life that calls her worth her salt, who said that...
not worth her salt, but anyone.
I
completely agree with you when it comes to academics and intellectuals.
On the street, pick any woman you like that calls herself a feminist, white woman, brown woman, black woman, who says, the wife should obey... The woman should obey the man in the house. You will not find such a thing. It's impossible.
There you go.
And if you do find
it, exist like that.
No, if you do, it's a minority. And what I'm saying is, by saying to your daughter and to the daughters of millions of other Muslims, the matter is nuanced, then you're opening the door for the devil and the community to push women in the direction of that particular corrosive ideology.
Maybe.
It is. It's just like, for example, if you say the same thing about capitalism or communism or any other ideology, we say that there are aspects of capitalism which we agree with, namely the free market system, aspects of it which we don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just for example, right? But so you need
Would you say the same thing about feminism then?
Yes.
You're leaving the door open for
because I'm not saying I'm a feminist. I'm not. If someone asks,
I'm not saying either.
Well, you're saying I don't know. You're saying it depends on how you.
What you mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying no. I'm negating, like when you say la ilaha before you say illallah. Yeah. So you say la ilaha first because you want to make sure that I don't worship the sanam of a Nisawiya, of feminism. By saying I don't know. So if I ask you if you worship Zeus, no, honestly, it's like, today the idols are not plastic or they're not clay. They're not clay idols. Today the idols are ideological.
That's a good, maybe a good future topic to talk about. What are the idols of today? MashaAllah.
Feminism is one of them. And that's why you need to make sure that you...
White supremacy, communism, capitalism,
all of them.
Free market.
Free market, no. Free market, no.
Okay, on that bombshell, we've got a little thing to wind down, like I mentioned before. Okay. Just quickly, very quickly, we're doing our Muslimic countdown now. Okay, so this is how it works. We're going to have to do one numbers round and one letters round. What does that mean? You're going to choose 9 letters. You say consonant, vowel, however many consonants and vowels you desire. Our lovely assistant will give one by one. And you have 30 seconds to make as long a word as you can.
Okay.
Yeah? Pretty clear.
Okay.
So you just say, start when you're ready.
Okay, start when you're ready.
You ask, can I have a consonant, can I have a vowel, whatever.
Consonant.
First consonant is B.
Consonant.
Another consonant. Mahmoud, are you doing the timer, yeah?
Yeah.
Consonant.
Okay. Another consonant. You have B, F, H.
Consonant.
Another consonant. You're feeling
Vowel.
R. B, F, H, T, R. Vowel is
Consonant.
E.
Vowel.
T. And vowel. Now, when you get the last one, the timer will start. E, T, I, E. 30 seconds, brother.
No, why have you got 30 seconds on your one, man?
9 seconds left.
9 seconds.
5, 10, 9, 8, 7.
And pencils down.
Did you get anything?
Yeah.
What'd
How
you
many did you get?
Got none.
You're going into. You got a 0.
Yeah,
Are you joking? You could
No
just
way.
get a lot. You're gonna go up on the leaderboard. You might actually come underneath Kashif now.
I've got nothing, man.
You got a 0. I got a 5-letter word. Not my best work. It's 3. Or thief.
Oh, you're quite good at this. I never thought about
I used to do this. Heftier could have been a 7-letter word. I don't know.
that. Oh, wow.
I started doing this on my Facebook page with different Muslim organization. I think Sapiens joined as well.
Is
It's
it?
called Islamic Countdown. When the lockdown started, just to stop people kind of killing each other.
I was
and
trying to
getting
make
each
a
other's
word,
nerves.
but then I just forget.
Yeah.
I thought you had to make a big one.
You don't have to. I mean, the bigger you get, the better. Okay. All right. Number game is this. You choose letters. You say one from the top, whatever from the middle or from the bottom. They're big, small, and medium numbers. You choose 6 numbers, and then the top number over there is your target. You have to use the numbers in blue with basic operations, plus, minus, divided by, multiplied by, in order to get the top number. Fahimt?
Sorry, I don't understand anything.
Yeah. So within 30 seconds, let's give him 60 seconds. Within 30 seconds, you have to use the numbers that show up in blue to calculate to get the number in the black
Can
box.
we do this later?
Could do. I
I'm a bit
really
hun-
need to go toilet.
I'm a bit hungry as well.
Let's quickly do it.
What are we doing?
Just 30 seconds.
What's the thing?
The worst excuse I've come across, yeah, I'm hungry, so I can't win.
No, what is it? What we're
So
doing?
I'll choose for you. Give me 2 from the top, 2 from the middle, 2 from the bottom.
What are we doing with this?
Yeah. Stop by. Just give 1 from the bottom for now. So look, write down those numbers: 100, 25,
Okay.
5, 7.
Yeah.
What's the bottom one? 1. And now 6. Now you use these letters.
Letters.
You use numbers like multiplied, plus, whatever, divided by, in order to get the top number, the target number, which is,
Okay.
what's the target number?
Yeah.
676. Understand?
No, I don't understand. What do I do? Like
So you
100
have
times
to-
6, for example.
Yeah,
plus
exactly,
7, plus
exactly,
70.
exactly. You can only use each number once. You have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Put on a 30-second timer. Oh, it's the first time I got it. 10 seconds left. And time's up. Okay, mashallah. What you got?
I got 100 times 6 plus 7 times 6. Which is not. I don't know. I don't know
What total did you get?
I don't know.
What's 7 times 6
100
max?
times 6 is 600, yeah? 7 times 6 is like 42 or something, isn't it?
Repeat the number twice.
So you got.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what's game.
So you got 642.
Something like that.
The closer you get, the more points you get. So there you go. I got
No, but I used more than
676.
one number once. I didn't realize.
I got 676.
How did you do that?
Alhamdulillah. So you don't trust me?
No.
I got 7 times 100, which is 700. Quick maths. Minus 25. 675 plus 1 6 676.
Yeah,
Jazakallah khair for
Thank you so
joining
much,
us.
man. Thank you,
I know you're knackered. I'm knackered as well. I'm
Yeah,
there. This is the
honestly.
marathon one.
Honestly.
And Jazakallah khairan for you at home watching. If you like this podcast, give a like and a share. If you want to get involved in the comments, let me know what you think below. Agree, disagree. And yeah, that's it from myself. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Unscripted.